So this video is going to be a long video. Grab a snack, make yourself a meal. Why not have this video on the background while you're cooking or cleaning, something like that. And yeah, enjoy the video. Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be filming part 2 of answering your vegan nutrition related questions. So this video was supposed to be posted a few weeks ago. So basically this video was supposed to be posted a few weeks ago. I had filmed this whole video, I had edited, it was ready to export, but then I accidentally deleted the files before I had exported the video, so that was all gone. And then school and life has just gotten in the way, so now a few weeks later I'm filming this again, and yeah, that is life. But I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than the previous one, so I guess that's a good thing. Let's start off with, I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition and health promotion, so yeah, I would say I know a bit about nutrition. I have also written a vegan nutrition ebook, which I will link down below, so you can check that out. And I've also made part 1 of this questionnaire, which was all about vegan protein, so you can watch that before or after. I will link it down below. And now let's get into answering some of your questions. So first off, I'm going to begin with just some general nutrition advice you can think about when you're eating plant-based. First off, just a little note. So vegan is the lifestyle where you don't buy anything with animal products. You limit where all areas of your life you like don't buy anything with animal products. Don't wear any wool, leather, snake skin, no beauty or hair products. They're all cruelty free on that. Vegetarian or strict vegetarian is like the diet. So, and then there are variants of vegetarian. As a vegan, you eat a vegetarian diet, if that makes sense. And then of course plant-based is kind of the same as vegetarian, but many think of plant-based as, you know, a very whole foods based diet where it's a lot of fruit and vegetables, all of that. But I know in this video I'm gonna mix between saying vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, but when I say that I mean a strict vegetarian diet, even if I say, you know, vegan diet, just clearing that up. Of course, saying that you eat vegan is a lot easier because nowadays there are so many different variants of vegetarian. So you could say you're vegetarian, but you eat dairy and eggs, so yeah. I'm also going to leave a timestamp down below so you can see what time I answer which questions. So if you don't watch the whole video, you can just go there to see the answer of the question you're interested in. So, some recommendations. First off, trying to get your 5 a day of fruit and vegetables. This is important for everyone, not just vegans. Unfortunately, potatoes and ketchup don't count to your 5 a day, but potatoes are still a great source of vitamins and fibers, so you can still eat them, but they don't count to your 5 a day. Second is to try to eat some protein-rich food at the majority of your meals, and you can watch my previous video for all about vegan protein. But try to think of adding some beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, seitan to all of our meals. Things like nuts and seeds, quinoa, bean pasta, they're all sources of protein. Of course, not every meal has to be super optimally nutritious, but just eating pasta and ketchup or just potatoes and avocado for every meal is not so optimally nutritious. If you eat a varied diet where you do incorporate beans and lentils, oats, quinoa, pasta, nuts and seeds, all of that into your diet, then you're most likely going to get enough protein. But unfortunately, for some vegans, they may be a little low on protein, even if they don't have a deficiency. That is very unlikely, but they might just be low on protein and could potentially increase by just adding some more beans, lentils, grains. Also, trying to eat some complex carbs at the majority of your meal. So complex carbs give you energy, they have fiber, they keep you full longer, they have a lot of vitamins and minerals. The thing about a vegan diet is that a lot of the carb sources and complex carbs are also a source of protein, as well as a source of iron often, zinc, fiber, different like folate and different vitamins and that. So when you eat, example, quinoa or bean pasta or oats, you're going to get protein as well as carbs, so it's a win-win. But even beans and lentils count as complex carbs as well as a protein. Eating some healthy fats each day is also important. So you don't need them at every meal, but you do need to eat some healthy fats each day. And healthy fats also help you absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, so vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D, vitamin K. That is important. And as a vegan, you can think about eating fat sources such as chia seeds, walnuts, rapeseed oil, flaxseed oil, because they are all rich in omega-3, and generally vegan plant-based diet is low in omega-3, so I'm going to get into that later. But of course other good healthy fat sources, avocado, nut butters, nuts, seeds, even hummus is a source of fat, tahini. So you can incorporate those into your diet, and of course limiting the amount of saturated fat you eat. And saturated fat is predominantly in animal products and processed foods, but things like margarine, processed cookies, processed cakes, all of that have saturated fat, so limiting that. And then of course eating calcium rich foods every day. I'm going to get more into calcium later, but thinking about adding calcium fortified tofu, some sesame seeds, tahini into your diet, that's a source of calcium. It is also recommended that you use a fortified plant-based milk if you do drink plant-based milk. That is because plant-based milks, which aren't fortified, don't have a lot of nutrients or vitamins, whereas the fortified ones have b12, they have D vitamin, calcium, some even have iodine, and these are all four very important nutrients which you may not be getting enough of on a plant-based diet depending on how you eat. So if you do consume plant-based milk, do buy the fortified ones. Also balancing your intake of processed store-bought fake meats. Not all vegans consume these, and it's nothing you need in your diet, but a lot of people do buy and eat them. They are convenient, they have a texture and taste which whole foods might not have. Also they're great for people transitioning into a vegan diet, so you eat them, they are fine and healthy in moderation. Just think about balancing them with also cooking from scratch. So if you maybe make a lasagna or a bolognese, you could always do 50-50 soy meat and black beans or lentils, things like that. Or some days you buy a soya burger, other days you buy a black bean burger. That can be a good idea, especially for the salt content, as processed fake meats are often high in sodium, which can be problematic for some people, especially if you're someone who salts the food afterwards as well, then it can become too much salt. But of course salt isn't always a bad thing. We do in fact need salt for our electrolytes. For some people who only cook from scratch, they can actually be getting too little salt, which can also be unhealthy. I'm going to get into that later though. And lastly, supplements. So as a vegan, the only supplement you really need is b12. But of course it is recommended that you also take a D vitamin supplement, because a vegan diet is often very low in D vitamin. D vitamin is something which is hard to get from a vegan diet, aside from maybe fortified plant-based milks. You can of course get D vitamin from the sun if you're out in the sunlight. I think 30 minutes. I think 30 minutes is enough. However, if you live in the colder climates where there's only sunshine maybe 2 or 3 months of the year, then you're not really going to be getting enough sunlight to create the D vitamin in your body for the winter and spring. Of course the best thing is to talk to your doctor and not just put in supplements if you don't know if you need them or not, but generally you could say that a multivitamin is a good idea. But of course talking to your doctor beforehand can be a good idea. So the first question is B12 as a vegan. Where do you get it and do you need a supplement? Let's start off with the fact that many say that a vegan diet is unhealthy because you don't get any B12 naturally from it, as B12 is found in animal products. But the fact is that B12 is actually a microorganism, a bacteria found in the soil, and when the cattle or animals eat it, then they get the bacteria into their intestines, and nowadays a lot of the animals are actually fed food that is fortified with B12, so the animals don't produce B12. In the past, I think people got B12 from eating root vegetables and having a bit of soil and that in their diet, but of course, please don't eat soil. That is very, very unhealthy. There are a lot of bacteria in soil. It's not a good way to get B12. B12 is important for your nervous system. It also helps regulate or create red blood cells, and the consequences of B12 deficiency can in fact be irreversible. Because B12 is stored in your liver, it is one of the only B vitamins which is stored in your body. The rest you pee out when there's an excess, but it can take up to 5 years before the consequences show. It is important to note though that for children who have never eaten meat or dairy, they won't have this stored B12 in their liver or their body, so they are at higher risk of getting B12 deficiency, and they will have to take supplements. Like, be careful with it, that they take their supplements. Whereas someone who has maybe eaten animal products earlier in their life, they might have more stored B12, and if they miss maybe a supplement for a week or something, maybe they're traveling, it's not going to be a make or break thing. Whereas someone who doesn't, for children, it is very important that they get B12. Let's talk supplements. So the best is to take smaller doses frequently. So I think 10 microgram every day instead of taking one huge dose once a week. I think the huge dose can often make people feel very sick. Not to mention that the body doesn't absorb as much, so those huge doses, the body isn't going to absorb all of it. So it's better to take smaller doses more frequently, and I think the recommendation is 3 microgram. So taking 10 microgram can seem excessive, and 2000 microgram even more excessive, but as I said, the body is not going to absorb all of it, and by taking 10 microgram example every day, you ensure that your body absorbs the right amount every day. Also, it can be good to think about that you don't take a multivitamin with B12 as well as a supplement of B12. I would say take either or. Generally, I would say, I'm not a doctor, so make sure to talk to your doctor, but don't take individual vitamins or vitamin supplements unless you know you need them. Oftentimes a multivitamin can be adequate for you. Then you get your calcium, iron, D vitamin, B12. Often the vitamin supplements, which are just one vitamin or one or two, they have very, very high doses, and if you combine that with a multivitamin, it can be too much. So don't supplement without knowing that you need it, but generally a multivitamin works for everyone, unless you know you have illnesses which makes you maybe have to be careful about certain vitamins. So next up is calcium. This is one of the most frequent nutrition questions I get asked. Very important that you get enough of, and unlike what many people think, you can in fact get calcium without eating dairy or drinking milk. So some good sources of calcium which you should try to include into your diet is calcium fortified tofu, fortified plant-based milks, even fortified plant-based cereals can have calcium, soya yogurt, but then also beans such as chickpeas, edamame beans, whole grain bread, dark leafy greens, almonds, pak choi, sesame seeds, tahini. Blackstrap molasses is also a good source of calcium. 2 tablespoons has about 400 milligrams, which is about half of the daily recommended intake or requirements of calcium. For some people it can be up to 1200 milligrams. I'm going to put up a little list here with examples of calcium-rich foods. It's also important to think about that calcium and D vitamin work together. So D vitamin helps the absorption of calcium. So you could be eating a super calcium-rich diet, but if you're low on vitamin D, you won't be absorbing enough of the calcium. And it's also that calcium and D vitamin together help strengthen your bones, keep your bones strong. Resistance training, strength training is also important for strong bones. So this is something a lot of people may not know. Just eating a bunch of tofu and almonds and dried figs to get your calcium up, but not getting D vitamin, is not going to help with calcium absorption or intake. For the majority of people, getting enough vitamin D is incredibly hard. Even omnivores need supplement of D vitamin. So as I said, taking a multivitamin with D vitamin is recommended. As a vegan, it can be a good idea to think about that. There are two sources of D vitamin, D2 and D3, and D3 can be derived from sheep's wool, so it's not vegan, whereas D2 is vegan. So that's why certain foods with D vitamin aren't always vegan, because they have D3 instead of D2. But I'm pretty certain that nowadays it's more common to use D2 or use a vegetable derived D3 source. So that's all I'm going to say about D vitamin. It is important, you can get it from sunlight, it is stored in your body, but it is a vitamin which you may need to supplement for. So iron, another mineral a lot of people are uncertain about on a vegan diet. So generally I wouldn't say you need a supplement for it just because you are vegan. There are plenty of plant-based sources with iron. For some people it can be a good idea with supplements. Generally speaking, females have a higher iron requirement because of menstruation, but also if you work out a lot, then you will lose more iron. So then you may need to think more about eating iron-rich foods. So some good sources of iron are legumes, grains, whole grains, dark leafy greens, tofu, different nuts and seeds, oats, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, cashews, also quinoa, fortified breakfast cereals, fortified plant-based milk. Other things you can think about is that vitamin C helps the absorption of iron, so adding some vitamin C rich foods such as tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, maybe make a side salad, maybe eat an orange with your meal, or even just a small glass of orange juice can help with absorption. And then foods such as coffee, tea and cocoa decrease the absorption of iron, so it can be a good idea to avoid those with your main meals. And if you are low on iron, then don't drink any tea or coffee 1 hour before, 1 hour after your main meal, as your main meals are often the most rich in iron. Yeah, that is about iron, and there are plenty of omnivores who do need iron supplements, so just because you're vegan doesn't mean that you're going to be low in iron. There are in fact many who go vegan and actually improve their iron level, but of course if you're feeling very tired, weak, fatigued, very pale, then maybe you could go to a doctor and just check it up, see what it is. Because fatigue and tiredness are often a sign of iron deficiency. But of course, in today's society it's not so strange to feel very tired due to all the stress. Now, let's move on to omega-3 as a vegan. So omega-3 is actually a healthy fat source, and there are different sources of omega-3. As I said, they're a fatty acid. Typically omega-3 is found in fatty fish and egg yolk, but you can also find it in plant-based sources such as walnuts, chia seed, rapeseed oil, flax seeds, as I mentioned earlier. And omega-3 is an essential fatty acid, meaning that our body can't create it. We need to get it from food. It also has anti-inflammatory qualities, so it can be a good idea to just increase your intake of the plant-based sources which have omega-3. Personally, I take a supplement of omega-3. It is something which has been recommended and prescribed for me. Not everybody needs a supplement of this, of course. It's fine to get it through your diet, and that is the best thing, but for some, investing in a vegetarian, vegan omega-3 tablet can be recommended. Iodine as a vegan if you don't salt your food. So iodine is a mineral which many people aren't really aware of. They don't think they need it, they don't really know what it is. but it is super important because iodine is important for your metabolism and your thyroid function. Basically, iodine is important for the creation of a T3 and T4 hormone, which comes from your thyroid. So, and those hormones then control your metabolism or are part of metabolism. And if you're lacking in iodine, that can cause thyroid problems. Then of course, too much iodine also causes thyroid problems, but unless you're eating extreme sources of seafood and salting your food a lot, as well as maybe taking too many multivitamins with iodine. So iodine is found in the soil, and it can be found in seaweed products such as algae. However, they aren't reliable sources of iodine. As iodine is so important, I wouldn't recommend that you just base your iodine intake on seaweed products or thinking that you're going to get it from root vegetables, because you're most likely not going to. There is iodine in iodized salt, and that is recommended that the majority of people do use iodized salt. If you don't have thyroid problems already, then it can cause a little problems to add extra iodine, or if you take an iodine supplement, then don't use iodized salt. As mentioned in the beginning of this video, salt is in fact important. It is essential for us, for our electrolytes. The problem nowadays, of course, is that the majority of people get too much salt. A lot of pre-made processed foods are high in salt, and on top of that, people salt when they're cooking, salt when they're eating. So the majority of people need to limit their salt intake. However, if you don't eat a lot of processed foods and you always cook from scratch, then adding some iodized salt is actually going to be beneficial for you. Going completely salt-free could actually have more consequences than salting moderately. Other sources of iodine are fortified plant-based milks. You would think I'm sponsored by a company. I'm not. As mentioned, fortified plant-based milks are a good source of nutrition, especially for these vitamins, which may be harder to get just eating fruits and vegetables. Supplementing with iodine, I would not recommend it unless you go to a doctor or dietitian who prescribes the supplement for you, because you can get too much of it, which does have consequences. It is nothing you should just supplement without knowing if you need it or not. I think some multivitamins do have iodine, so you can just check that up. So in general, I would say if you salt a lot, limit the salt intake. If you never salt, you could most likely benefit of salting a little bit. And the last question of this very long video is bloating as a vegan. This is a very hot topic. I get asked this at least once a week from people. So a plant-based diet is very rich in fibre, and some fibres are harder to break down. If you're someone who hasn't eaten a lot of fibre or has eaten a rather low fibre diet, then if you suddenly go plant-based and eat a whole bunch of beans, vegetables, legumes, grains, all of that, then of course your stomach is going to react. You're going to feel very bloated, you might feel some cramping, some gases, all of that. So my best recommendation is that you slowly increase your intake of dark leafy greens, beans, grains, lentils. Don't do it all at once. Give your body time to adapt. And bloating is normal. The majority of people bloat in the evenings. Some people get a little bloated after each meal they eat. But that's not so strange. Your body is digesting the food, and at the end of the day, your stomach is filled with food and liquids. Of course you're going to be a little bloated. And if you've eaten foods you're intolerant to, or maybe have a lot of fibre, then there may be, as I said, some cramps and gases. The problem, however, is if you get a lot of pain associated with your bloating, or if it's, very extended, very hard, you get a lot of pain and discomfort. So I've had stomach issues in the past. It was actually when I was on it was actually before I went vegan, then I could get so much stomach pain that I couldn't meet friends, I couldn't leave the house, I would just lie in bed with the stomach pains. For me, going vegan actually helped that. Like, I haven't had that sort of stomach pain for the past 3 years. So if you have that sort of pain associated with your diet, then I would go to a doctor and check it up. Or you could write a food diary and see if there are any certain meals which maybe trigger the pain more than others. I would also recommend that if you do feel a lot of bloating or stomach discomfort, or just at the start of eating a plant-based diet, that you keep your meals simple. So if you follow me on Instagram, It's a Healthy Lifestyle, you'll see that I eat a lot of Buddha bowls, I eat a lot of meals which have a lot of ingredients, a lot of different fibers and all of that. That works for me. But I would say when you first eat plant-based or you do get stomach discomfort, keep your meals simple, such as just potatoes, tofu, broccoli. Or if you make a lentil soup, don't add a bunch of onion and garlic and 3 types of beans and 10 different vegetables, because then you won't really know what triggers the pain, and it can be too much fiber all at once for you to handle. And if you keep your meals simple, you'll give your body time to adapt, as well as it's easier to figure out what is it that causes the discomfort or pain. But of course, as I said, if you do get a lot of pain, a lot of bloating, and it hinders you from living, then going to a doctor is important. And not just cutting out or restricting food, because that is not going to help it either. You need to find out what is the source. So that is all the questions I have now. If you watched all this video, good job. I've tried to keep this as short, as informative as possible, but all of these questions I could, go really deep, really detailed. I love talking about nutrition, but I just want to give you a sort of overview, quick answers, what foods are good sources of different vitamins, all of that. And yeah, if you like these type of nutrition videos, give this video a like. Comment down below if you have any nutrition related questions, or you want me to do video talking about a certain topic, answering some of your questions, all of that. Just let me know. If you haven't subscribed already, do it. It does help me a lot. It shows me you like my content. You get a notification when I post a video. I will see you all again next week with a new video. Not sure what it's gonna be, but some type of video anyway.